So let's welcome Professor Eric Maskin.
Well, thank you very much. I think rather than trying to summarize what has been said in this most interesting couple of sessions, I'd like to focus on a couple of points that did not really get stressed. One of which is the fact that during the pandemic, we were all affected by supply chain disruptions. And I bring this up because I think those disruptions were closely related to complexity. So why did these disruptions occur? They occurred because the goods that we have in our modern economy are very complex and are getting increasingly more complicated. And when goods are very complex, they require many different inputs. And the inputs themselves may require inputs. So there tends to be a long chain of inputs needed to produce any particular good. And if at some place along the chain a link is broken, well, then the supply chain is broken and the production of the good may come to a halt. And because there are so many inputs involved, the risk of disruption can be very high. Now, what can we do to protect ourselves from breakdowns? Well, if I understand, let's imagine that I'm producing one of the intermediate goods going into an electric car. Say I'm producing cathodes, which are needed in batteries, and the batteries are needed in motors. If I run a cathode producing factory, I might take care to get my cobalt, which I need to produce cathodes, from more than one supplier, so that if one source of cobalt turns out not to come through, I can still get cobalt from another supplier, and that way perhaps continue my production of cathodes. In effect, I am buying an insurance policy against supply breakdowns. Now, typically, it'll be too expensive for me to buy perfect insurance. I'll probably want to buy partial insurance. Let's say I want to buy $1 million worth of insurance. But what I'm neglecting is that if I am buying insurance for my factory, I am in effect also buying insurance for the electric motor company several stages higher in the supply chain. If I increase my chances of getting the cobalt, I also increase the chance of being able to provide battery companies with cathodes, and they now have a better chance of being able to supply batteries to the motor companies. So I'm conferring what an economist would call a positive externality, but I'm not compensated for that. And as you know, if companies are not compensated for positive externalities, they are likely to provide too little of that good. So the upshot is that there may not be enough insurance, there may not be enough redundancy in the system left to its own devices. Now, economists know what the solution to positive externalities is, that subsidies. But I'd like to suggest, because we're at the Lohan Academy, which is under the auspices of a major commercial platform, Alibaba, that there may be a platform solution too. That is, if the cathode company and the motor company are on the same platform, then the platform itself has the incentive to internalize the externality by subsidizing the cathode company for increasing the number of its suppliers. Because such actions by the platform will increase the total surplus of the platform, and the platform can take some of this surplus for itself. So that's the first point I want to make about complexity, that the externalities it gives rise to could, to some extent, be internalized by platforms. And let me make one final point. Yesterday in the AI panel, we discussed the famous debates between Lange and Lerner on the one hand, and Hayek and von Mises on the other hand, about the possibility of centralizing an economy or an organization. Lange and Lerner argued that a centralized or planned economy can do everything that a decentralized economy can do and more. That is, instead of acting on their own, as in a decentralized economy, economic agents can simply report what they know to the center. The center can calculate what they should do and then instruct them to do it. And in this way, the centralized economy can replicate whatever it is the decentralized economy can do, and it can also make corrections, such as correcting for externalities. But Hayek, in response to that argument, said, not so fast, because when an agent is supposed to report what she knows, in mechanism design, we would call this reporting her type. What she knows might be exceedingly complicated. If you ask an entrepreneur what she knows that could be relevant to what she does, it would take her weeks, if not months or years, to do that. And this is especially true when it comes to innovation, where everything is so new that even expressing knowledge in usable form might be difficult. And for that reason, Hayek was opposed to centralization. And I think that it's fair to say that at least if we concentrate on innovation, Hayek was correct. He won the argument, at least as far as most economists are concerned, as applied to innovation. Now, how does increasing complexity change the debate? Well, if what the entrepreneur knows is even more complex than before, then it's going to be even harder for her to report this to the center. The dimension of her type becomes even bigger. So I believe that the argument for decentralization as applied to innovation becomes stronger as a result of complexity. Yes, AI and the ability to crunch huge data sets mean that a central authority will be able to process more data than before. But the binding constraint is not data processing, but rather communication of data. And so I think Hayek today is even more relevant than in the 30s and 40s when he was making his original arguments. Thanks very much.